Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. I like math, so let's do a few quick calculations. Today's song is a whopping 12 minutes long. Now, I like to stop and talk about how awesome sounds are created, and that commentary usually is about 2 to 3 times as long as a song, so we're talking about a minimum of 36 minutes total for this video. Add to that I like to rewind and listen to those parts again so we get the sound in more detail. That adds another 12 minutes, bringing us to 48 minutes minimum total. Add an intro and an outro, and I am predicting that today's video will be at least 50 minutes long. May I recommend grabbing a drink, and let's get to it. That is a cool chord progression. I just have to say right away, this chord progression is amazing. We're gonna go back. I'm gonna pull keyboard out. I'm gonna see if I can figure out what those notes are and talk about why this is so extraordinary. Let's go back to the beginning one more time. I'm going to do one ear on. Let's see if we can figure out what this is. Okay, time for a quick theory lesson before we even get to any sort of singing. This is really, really cool. These are 4 chords that are strung together, and we call that a chord progression. So much of music is built on chord progressions. Now, there's this hilarious video, I think it's called the 4 chord progression of like every single song out there, basically. A typical chord progression is going to be something like this. So you have, we'll often call it 1, 6, 4, 5, right? Now a whole bunch of you are going to leave this video because I just played that. But so many pop songs are built on that, or some sort of combination of 1, 6, 4, and 5, or 1, 4, 5, 6. There, yes. Combine those together, and it's super exciting. The bass in this I'm pretty sure it went like this. I love that last one in particular. It's like super, super crunchy. A really interesting thing to me, for you music nerds, those first 3 notes are forming an augmented triad. Right? There's a lot of dissonance is built into that. I mean, the last 2 notes here, they're forming a tritone, which that's the most dissonant. It's like the devil's interval, right? So that's incredible. Actually, even, oh gosh, this is so cool. That's such a cool, just the bass alone is amazing. Especially that last drop down to here. It's so unexpected and like open at the same time in music harmony. It's so cool. So before we've even gotten to singing, I feel drawn in by some incredible music. And by the way, you know how I said, like, if I was only listening to each part twice, good luck. Gonna be a long analysis. Back to the beginning. Oh, other thing, sorry. Gosh, even more. That first opening, it's not even within a normal, it's not starting on a downbeat. So we have 4 measures of 4/4, which is shockingly normal for Opeth, right? 4/4 time signature, common time signature is another name for it. Literally called common time signature because it's the most common time signature used. However, the first note does not start on the downbeat, which means that even though it's 4/4, we are not starting at the beginning of 4/4. We're actually starting pretty close to the end. And then the moment the first chord comes in, that's at the beginning of your 4/4. Two, three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh, that's even cooler than I thought, but we won't get into that part. So, just a little note. There is some modulation between major and minor happening as this chord progression is going on. That's why I said it's even cooler than I originally thought. I was only picking out the bass note and talking about how that bass note and each chord related to each other. If you start to get those whole chords in there, the switch between major and minor is super cool. Okay, keep going. Bend it up there? I think they bent it up. Woo! Oh, it's like a little extra spicy right there. Woo! That made my body feel like it was standing up, becoming more alert, similarly to how my drink makes me feel. And I will tell you what is in this marvelous concoction soon. You are welcome to guess in that live premiere chat and tell me what y'all are drinking too. This can be anything, y'all. I want to support people in drinking what drinks they want to have. So if you are drinking beer, cool beans. If you're like, nah, man, I love water. I love water too. I really love Topo Chico. I'm really into sparkling water. So drink what you want to drink. Sometimes it's the morning, and probably during this premiere, the actual premiere, I will probably be having tea. Anyhow, tell me what you're drinking. I like that too. Is that a 7th jump? It's a 7. So this is super cool. We're getting this jump over and over. And you guys hear me talk about octaves a lot, right? I'm trying to take some music theory and make it easier to understand. Because sometimes it just feels like somebody's speaking a foreign language, which essentially music notation is considered another kind of language. It's really good for your brain too. But when you do this, it's really close to being an octave apart. It's 1/2 step away, which is the smallest interval that exists from being an octave apart. An octave, this is a very, very consonant, rather than dissonant, consonant interval, meaning consonant leap between notes. Those notes have the same name. This is D to D. This is going to be D2 to D3. Okay? Now, over and over, we're hearing this. Right? That's really dissonant because it's leaping to the note that's just below that top part of the octave. It's essentially creating this feeling of a ton of space because it's doing this big leap, but then it leaps to this kind of thing. And if you've heard this before, right, that's your Jaws theme. It creates anticipation and dissonance. So what they're doing is creating a feeling of spaciousness, and that space is filled with anticipation. It's cool. It has an awesome vibrato that makes it more dissonant. I love that riff in there too. That sounded like an acoustic guitar in there. It had I love the way all the sound was dropped off, and it almost sounded something about the sound of the guitar with the sound dropped out and the pitches chosen. It just felt slightly exotic to me. That's fine. So it's both in the way that there's a little, like a little ornamentation, sort of a flourish of some notes beside each other. And there's also some pitches that are chosen that are often associated with not just your sort of standard Western music, but sometimes with Middle Eastern music, or just maybe we call it Eastern music in general, because we get some really interesting scales used in there that are intriguing, right? If you think about Aladdin, for example, you'll often be using some sort of exotic scale to help portray that sort of Arabian Nights idea. Nice. I was wanting to see where those vocals were going. That very first sound reminded me of a frog croaking in some very, very dark woods. Hence, Blackwater Park is, I think, a very good choice for the name of the song. I want to go back. I know we're gonna go back pretty far. We're gonna go back to that croaking. It sounded like we were getting essentially a delay on it, and a delay when we're talking about music production. That's post production essentially. So we would get one sound, and then there's an echo of it that gets repeated and it gets quieter and quieter. And if you do a delay that's timed with the music, it'll come in on a certain beat. I think it was a delay. It could have been actually made by Mike though, so I want to go back. That was actually really great timing, right on it. One more time. Yeah, each of those sounds I thought were identical, just getting quieter. So I'm pretty sure that was a delay that was put on it. And I love the way that it created this idea of expanse, of wherever we are in this musical space. When you have a delay like that, that's really going poof, 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 it gives you the idea that it's sort of striking some sort of geographical structure, and it's way far out there. So it gave us spaciousness in the music. That's such a cool riff. Excuse me. I feel like all of the pollen in this swamp is just getting to me. Let's go back one more time. I went back too far. This is gonna be a really long video, y'all. I hadn't included sneezes in the calculations. So one of the things that I like about Mike's harsh vocals, his harshes, we'll keep that just as harshes, all condensed, for the sake of time. He has such a relaxed sound. It's incredible. It's relaxed. It's fairly consistent as well. It's almost smooth and easy, which is kind of hilarious because his singing voice is also smooth and easy. The first time I heard them, I remember thinking, wow, it's like, this is so aggressive compared to the smooth singing. And as I've become more accustomed to hearing harsh vocals, understanding differences between them, I've realized that his harshes are some of the loosest that I think I've heard. It is super, super open. A lot of times harsh vocalists are using the stuff from here up, essentially all of these different shapers to really affect the sound. The pitch center can be shifted by switching the tongue in one direction. It creates maybe a deeper sound, maybe a tunnel for the sound to reverberate through in a different way. It's super fascinating to me. We are actively researching this, just so you know. In case you didn't know that, I'm actively doing researchers with a team of the best researchers from around the world, and we are getting answers about how these sounds are created because it's really, really freaking cool. So the way that the tongue especially is manipulated to create these sounds often leads to it being difficult to create enunciation of words. Those two things are constantly in a battle. Do I want this sound to be cool or do I want this word to be clear? And I like that in his sound, because it's consistently loose, I actually get the words pretty dang well. He also has a ton of fun, I think, with very gradually shifting certain tongue shapes. So we get this kind of like idea. It's essentially a filter that is shifting over time. Right there, for example. I'm gonna go back just a little bit more. Yeah, the way he shifts through those words is just really, really gorgeous, especially that last one, which is pain. I just double checked it. I thought it was pain. I was like, and what is pain? Good job, Mike, on that enunciation. Pain has a diphthong in it, and you hear very clearly him switching between those two vowels, right? Diphthong is, in speech, one sound that is created by a combination of two vowels. In this case, a, pain is what we should be hearing, and it's very clear. Great shift in the diphthong there. This had this moment of like fairy magic, and then all of a sudden there were these, let me call them ugly notes in the whole series of notes being played, ones that had extreme dissonance. I was like, it feels like a distorted fairyland. There's our diphthong again. It was like jazzy there. Repeat of the same idea, I think, which is nice. It was so complicated the first time, having it repeated lets me get into it more. That was shockingly beautiful into that transition. So smooth and deliberate. It's the choices overall are just stunning. Again, with those adding the ugly notes in. I love the long sustained notes on top as this contrast to this rapidly moving line underneath. But the way that the textures of our sounds just shifted here and like modulated into another chapter was brilliant. Love that production. They were so deliberate about it, but it was such an aha moment to experience. It almost feels like the guitar strings are touching my ears there. But still, this idea of quickly moving and sustained line, that contrast going on. Voice? I'm getting total Will-O-Wisp vibes, right? do my fellow nerds. I think because Blackwater Park, it gives me this idea of some sort of swamp. Also, the entire cover here. I feel like I'm in a swamp and I'm being drawn somewhere, probably to death of some sort, right, by a will-o-wisp. Again, great note choices there. It's magical. Not necessarily like unicorn magic, unless it's an undead unicorn. This is dark magic, y'all. This is something straight out of Mordor. Wow. This song overall so far has felt to me more like a symphony. There are many, many times that you'll sit and experience a symphony in a live performance, and it almost feels like you're on some sort of journey, right? It's like your soul is taking flight. It's going to just hang out in another dimension for a bit. And you get these flashes of life as it's going through wherever the music takes you. Most of it it's just very instrumental, very instrumentally focused at this point, right? We've had a little bit of elements of vocals as far as that harsh vocal sound initially with the really cool diphthongs and enunciation. But otherwise, the voice has essentially been acting as another instrument, not delivering text, but instead delivering timbre and some sort of journey that doesn't have your steps written down just yet. You get to create that journey in your imagination as you're going along. Super beautiful. Ooh, I think we're about to dive into something crazy here. I just want to take a moment to comment on this magic one more time. I love this idea that music is the highest form of magic. I think that we essentially, even though I'm such a science nerd, right? Such a science nerd, literally doing vocal research. I also just believe in this idea that magic is all around us. It's up to us to reach out and grab it. It's up to us to reach out and grasp the music. Ultimately, you can, in your mind, travel somewhere, fly somewhere, experience this gorgeous beauty just by being in music. It's always there. It's so beautiful. And I love that bands like Opeth help us enter that other dimension. I think there are so many incredibly talented artists that can take us into their dimension. I love this idea too that the composer, the artist, what they're essentially doing is creating a world for us to explore. Like, it's like World of Warcraft, right? You're like, I want to explore this whole thing. I want to get on my mountain. I want to ride and fly over all of the parts anyhow. If you're a Warcraft nerd, you know how much fun it is to explore. They have created another world, another dimension with their music, and it's up to us if we want to be a part of that magic. I love this idea. Thank you, Opeth, and every single artist that allows us to experience this. And in other dimensions and in other worlds, there are beasts, frequently, beasties, that sound exactly like Mike Ackerfeld. Again, listen to how loose his harsh vocals sound. It sounds so low. It just sounds like false fold goodness to me. It's like the swamp is burping. It definitely sounds like in this part his vocal is doubled in the production. This is one of the things I've become interested in recently, which is how do people produce harsh vocals? It can't be produced in the same way as a clean. The clean has an entirely different frequencies that is, you have all these different overtones that are related to that actual pitch. It's very different. And in the same way that if you're producing beatboxing or vocal percussion in an a cappella group, that is going to be treated very, very differently from your lead singer. So I think it's interesting to hear about how people are choosing to double, triple, split the sound to the side, straight down the middle. There's different ways you can mix it, different kinds of EQs you can give it as well. And I thought I heard a double in here. I really heard it once the words were going, so wait for it. There. Also got some awesome verb. Yeah, definitely doubled, if not more. Had some high harshes in there too. I feel like there are these waves just swishing over. Whoosh, whoosh. Oh my gosh. It's like waves of flavor in a fantastic drink. Like if you've got a really, really good drink, like it is top-notch stuff, you're gonna get waves of flavor, or maybe even textures in the case of something that has sparkling on it, right? Let me tell you about the waves of flavor in this drink. This is beautiful, y'all. So we have some fresh lemonade that Kirk made up. Also have some muddled mint. You have some muddled rosemary. I love that. You get something right herby, and those two also hit at different times. This is a progressive drink here. Maybe we should make a cookbook. The progressive drink cookbook. Maybe have progressive meals. I don't know. I've always thought it'd be really fun to do pairings of food or drink with music to enjoy someday. I'm going to test that out on y'all and see if you like it. And you might tell me I'm super stupid. I accept your judgment. I also have some lime coriander bitters in there. And of course, Topo Chico, making that sparkle on the end, super spritzy. Topo Chico is the best sparkling water, I swear. It's hard to get in many places in the world, but it's my favorite sparkling water. And then the right kind of cherry. Hear this from a girl who grew up on a cherry orchard. I'm very picky about my cherries. Luxardo cherries are the only cherries I ever want to see in my drink. The other ones scare me. I think they're radioactive. So anyhow, you thought this had alcohol in it. Well, bitters have a tiny bit. Let me tell you, you can have amazing mocktails. Essentially mocktail. Without having tons of alcohol. I support all y'all in your drink choices. Be responsible and appreciate the waves of flavor. And get with me on this bandwagon of drink and music pairing. Please, progressive music, progressive drink.
Willing to sell some
So some of the shift in sounds there was definitely caused by mouth shape. I think that the source mostly was staying the same. If you guys aren't familiar with source filter theory, here's it in a nutshell. There is a source of the sound, and the sound goes through some sort of filter. If you think about a horn, the source of the sound is going to be the of the lips, right? And then, or sometimes you'll have a reed up. It was like a saxophone. That's kind of a quasi-hybrid instrument. Anyhow, you have the source of sound, and then you have this entire brassy thing that is the filter, which is kind of nuts to me. In this case, source of sound is somewhere in here, and this whole thing up here functions as our filter. The sound is looping through it. It's hitting in different areas with bone resonance, with tissue that can be stretched or condensed in some way. So source filter theory. So I think that the source here was the same for him. It still sounds very much centered on the false folds. He might have had a little other action going in there. Can't be positive. I don't see down his throat right now. But it sounded like it was a very low sound, which often is associated with false folds. And then as he's going through other sort of like pitch areas, it sounds like he's using a lot of manipulation of the tongue and of the lips to shift those areas. At one point, he has one that's really high, and it sounds like he's shifted into a really bright resonance area to help create that. Oops, back here. Probably too far. Here. That sound like a really high tongue there. So I recently was in the room as the data was being collected for, I would say, our first very large and thorough study on harsh vocals. And one of those tests included a dynamic MRI, meaning we got to see real-time video cross sections as Will Ramos, the super brave artist, did harsh vocal sounds. And it was just awesome to see this room of researchers who have been doing this their entire lives. One of the guys that was there literally created the tools that were used to capture this DMRI. It was crazy. And they all saw Will's tongue making these wacko shapes in his mouth. They were like, what? What's happening? He's using his tongue so much. The control he has over it, like the pharyngeal space, that back throat wall between that and the tongue, the control he has over it is insane. The control he has over the tongue shape's insane. I think that as we continue down this road of more harsh vocal research, we're going to discover that, don't take this the wrong way, we're going to discover that harsh vocalists have extremely impressive control over their tongue muscle. The shapes that are made to create the variety of sounds are just off the charts. Most people don't do that. It's very, very talented, and it was really, really cool to see in the DMRI. Really cool. Back just a little bit. That one is cool. Sound like he had the saw palette dropped. Oh, that's so exotic, that scale. We definitely had like a harmonic minor scale happening in there at one point. It was like, hey, instant stamp of exotic with those note choices. Side note, I got a refill here for my drink. I'm gonna add some more because this is so good. And by the way, y'all, we have crossed over the half point. One of the things that I think Mike is doing incredibly well here is breath control. Another area that wants so much more study. And we also took some respiratory kinesmatics. We'll get some more detail on that. It fascinates me, though, the way that the fleshy bits coming together to create harsh vocal sounds, um, the way that they interact with airflow is really, really mind-boggling to me. With the true vocal folds, we know that they do this kind of thing on the inside, and they go wacka, 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 and they actually have this full movement like this, and it's very coordinated. It's sort of amazing, and it holds breath pressure underneath. If you get full closure of the folds, you tend to be able to hold back some more. There's more efficiency in the sound. When it comes to the fleshy bits up above that are going smacka, 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 those, they don't have this like super clear, regular vibration that the true vocal folds have. And so I have this big question, and other researchers have the same question of how much breath pressure is being held back? Are you essentially, are you able to lose more air? Can we actually increase the efficiency of that? SOVT exercises, semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, are used for clean singers to help increase efficiency in the true vocal folds. I have a big question of, can we use SOVT exercises for harsh vocalists to increase the efficiency in their harsh vocals? If that's the case, you might be able to get to a point where you're able to hold the notes longer and longer and longer, and it feels easier and easier and easier, right? You don't have as much collision, possible damage occurring. So there's all kinds of ways that these could be interacting with air that we just really don't know, though we can take theories from other research and apply them to this and see what happens. That being said, his breath control is really lovely. Even though it sounds airy and loose, he's able to sustain these notes for a really long time and not lose quality. I think that's very impressive. That's such a cool filter shift right there. I love that. Really cool. Ooh, switch to major right there. Oh, what a moment to pause. Ooh, that was a terrible moment to pause. Quick, brief aside. I feel like the font or this design of the O in Opeth has a treble clef in it. It also has a yin yang in it. It's just beautiful. The design, there's obviously a bug in it somewhere. It's really cool. Okay, way to stop the major. This combination of blast beats underneath with these, again, super exotic pitch choices. They're consistently doing things that are expanding on the scales. They do not use a normal scale, like this kind of, right? What you learned in Sound of Music as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that seemed to not really exist in Opeth. They are constantly expanding the kind of scale. It's nuts. They expand it and distend it so much that stuff starts to sound normal when it's weird. They create a new normal. Combining that with the blast beats and these super extended harshes is just gorgeous. It's a little swampy. It's it's somehow like elevated swamp music. It's gorgeous. Oh, I just realized that they remind me of Gojira. I think Gojira is newer than Opeth overall, so I'm guessing that Gojira probably took a lot of inspiration from Opeth. Definitely Gojira harsh vocals feel a little bit similar to this. When it goes up to that highest harsh, I'm starting to doubt now if that's mouth shape or source change. It's really high for it to still be just false folds. What usually happens is when we go a little bit higher up in the vocal tract, we'll see things kind of get a little more uh, narrow up there. Bring some of those other fleshy bits together that can make some of these harsh vocal sounds. When that happens, we'll often have easier access to some of the high harshes. And it is possible to achieve a high using false folds by really drastically modulating how the mouth is formed, how that filter is shaped. But I don't know for sure. It went so high and the timbre shifted enough that I thought, he might actually be using a slightly different source there. Don't know, would have to have a camera to know. Or one of the really cool things in the study, actually, we did this extremely in-depth acoustic analysis, and we're pairing it side by side with seeing down the throat and all the information from the other kinds of studies like needles and throat for muscle activation. And that acoustic study's purpose, one of them, is to see if we can define just by how we hear something what the sound source is, and then maybe what the filter shape is. Can we separate those things out acoustically reliably? Maybe. We're going to find out. At least in the case of Will's throat, I think we'll be able to make that distinction. Can we take that and apply it to other singers? I don't know. We need a lot more data to know if that is possible. So let's keep going. That feels almost like it's fry scream, not vocal fry. Ooh, I love the intensity here. Ooh. I swear, one of the hardest things to compose is transitions from section to section. Opeth is like, yeah, we'll accept that challenge. They have so many transitions in their music. It's progressive, but it's not just a little bit progressive. This is like high level, high elf progressive. There you go, if you want your fun D&D terms. They have so many transitions, and they're good. Each of them is good. I love the way they bring elements from the section before, like they had that lingering guitar on top, and then introduce a new element, and then switch in yet another new element. It's really fun. It's like dominoes. Let's go back to the beginning of that scream. This sounds to me like it starts with one sound source and shifts the mouth only. So it is just shifting the filter. This is because it's continual sound, very similar into how we have vocal registers in clean singing, like chest voice and head voice. Those two registers are partly defined by what muscles are dominant. And if you switch between the two of them, it's very hard to do that smoothly because you're handing over essentially the steering wheel to a different muscle. Now, if you're going to switch sources with harsh vocals, I almost just consider different sources to be different registers of harsh vocals, meaning in some people's terminology, they'll say their false chord scream and their fry scream. I would consider those two different registers because we're engaging two different sets of muscles, essentially. And in this case, I think he's using just one register and shifting the mouth shape because we don't hear a break there. It's super, super smooth all the way up. It's just raising in pitch. And I don't hear a shift over in the muscles. Great sustain. Mouth shape wise, if you make your mouth a lot longer, essentially any way that you elongate the vocal tract, meaning from where the sound source is essentially until it goes out. If you can elongate that, it increases the resonance of deeper things. So it's going to usually sound a little bit lower. And if you're shortening it, like pulling the lips back, maybe shoving that tongue forward, these kinds of things, they can then increase brighter resonance, higher resonance. It'll sound a little bit higher. So if you were just to shape your mouth along with them here, you would notice that at first you would have like more of an ooh kind of feeling, and then back to the end, like a roo. Go back again. That's a long sustain, y'all. Cheers. Impressive. So that last high section compared to the low section we just started, that might be where you have the different sound source, like more of his fry and his false hold. But I'm not totally persuaded. I know some singers can sing entirely with that upper constriction, all of their harshes. Some people can do entirely with the lower constriction, meaning your false holds, all of their harshes, and they're just shifting their filter a ton. I want to know so much more about this. I'm just so curious. I think it's incredible. You guys, understanding more about this doesn't just affect things like metal, deathcore. Understanding more about this affects every other genre of singing. Anytime you want to hear a rattle in like a little bit of blues country or rock, like we're talking about the same anatomy. It's used most extensively when you have somebody who's only doing pure harshes. But the limits to how it will be applied to voice and singing, it's limitless. Then we start to talk about how that works its way into psychology, because there's so much research that's being done on music therapy right now. And it's going to be fascinating, I think, how we associate this with emotions, which there literally are studies being done on that right now. Just so you know, this is part of the whole big picture. It is going to be linked very quickly to emotion. And then we can take that further. We can talk about how listeners are responding. Is that activating this anatomy in us when we didn't even know? Because just by thinking about singing or thinking about playing an instrument, your brain lights up in ways that there was this amazing amazing study done on Renee Fleming, opera singer, that showed that her brain was more active when she imagined singing than actually singing. So just think about all of the possible ways we can apply that to harsh vocals with all of these possible different sources that are different muscles activated in there. It's like, it's limitless. It's really incredible. I'm so excited about it. It's so intense. There's like some sort of banshee scream going on in the background there. Did y'all hear that too? Right there. I love the way they brought that banshee sound more forward now. And it's just a really pressed guitar, I think. Whoa. Wow. So that sort of banshee-like scream, as it entered and then got brought more and more forward, it felt to me like this climax of things becoming piercing to the point where they just started to fray apart. I loved that sound as essentially, I think that's our big climax of the entire song. I'm just going to go back a little bit and then probably let this roll to the end to get the full feeling of how they wind it down. Wow. And the pitch choices. I hear some tritones in there. Ah. It's so classical. This feels like classical guitar. That's beautiful. I want to make a cheers to all of the bands, to all of the artists who transport us to another magical land. Thank you so much for your incredible work and for this masterpiece of progressive music. Cheers. And if y'all would like to look into some more of that vocal research that I was talking about, I'll put up a playlist over here. May you also fall more in love with music every day.